you're smart. You're very skilled. I'm sure that you're very good at picking things up. If you are struggling this much on the skill, it's probably not because you're struggling with skill acquisition. It's probably because of something upstream.
My name is Christy. I'm an M4 at Loyola Stritch School of Medicine. My dream specialty is ophthalmology, and a STEP score of 260 or more is important. I most recently scored a 236, and have just been stuck in the 230s for the past month. I feel like I'm fighting my brain. I'm trying to do the RERO, so the rule in, rule out, but I keep hyperfixating on certain things and think that they're more important. And so it's cutting into my time, it's stressing me out, and I don't know how to train myself to be better at the rule in, rule out process and just the question analysis process in general.
Oh, these are my favorites.
I want to know why this is your favorite, because I suck at these risk ones.
Because it's basically a 60-year-old woman who has a 40-pack year history, like an active 40-pack year history.
Yes.
And they're asking, what is she going to die from? What's she most likely to die from, right?
Yes.
So so just think of the epidemiology. What is the number one cause of death in the United States, period?
Cardiovascular disease.
Yeah, for sure. I could see myself getting this one wrong too. Like it's what they're testing you on though is like, do you know the epidemiology?
What's the better framework?
This is a standalone question issue. This isn't my favorite kind of question. I'll see if we can find one that's like my favorite kind.
Okay.
My favorite kind is the epidemiology questions where they give you all the risk factors and you got to figure out which is the most important risk factor. This one is like that, but it's harder. This one is harder because it takes advantage of your intuition less. My favorite one was, it was like a 60-some-year-old woman who has osteoporosis, and she's got a BMI of like 17 or 16, something like that. So obviously a low BMI is a risk factor for osteoporosis, as is age.
Yeah,
So
right.
which is the most likely cause? Which is the largest likely contributor to her osteoporosis? Her age or her BMI?
Her age.
Okay. You sound unsure. How would you be sure?
I would
Because they're
say
both
age,
contributors.
because now she's postmenopausal, like by and large, like the low BMI adds.
It's okay. That's okay. The problem with that is that it requires you to have immense knowledge to answer it, right?
Oh.
What's better is to try to put it in terms that you can use your intuition. So what I like to do is to take the extreme version of it and then compare those extremes. So I'll give you an example. So in this case, the extreme version would be, let's say that she had a normal BMI, but her age was 60.
Okay.
Right? So that's
Yeah.
that's one version of this woman. The other version of this woman is that the other extreme, right? Her age is normal, but her BMI is low. So let's say that her age was 25, but her BMI was 17.
Oh, she's still at risk for osteoporosis.
I mean, either way, she's at risk for osteoporosis, but who would you think is much more likely to have osteoporosis? A 60-year-old with a BMI of 22 or a 25-year-old with a BMI of 17?
The 60-year.
Yeah, of course. Right. And that one you were much more confident on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So for these questions, right? Like people trick themselves into thinking, oh my God, like how could I possibly know this? Like, because they gave me 5 different risk factors. Like all of these things could be true. It's like, no. Just pretend that there's only one of those risk factors. Cool.
Cool. I need more tips like this because I'm trying to build that intuition. My intuition, I think, is.
I know. Well, this is like a lot of getting a 260 is stuff like this. Is like you want to rely on your knowledge less. You want to rely on intuition and like other things more in the right way. All right. So ITP. So this one, oh, interesting.
My intuition was ITP. And then I read through the question again, and her hemoglobin was 9. And because in both of them, your platelets will be low, but TTP is more of like a microangiopathic hemolytic path.
I know, but what did she come in for?
Heavy vaginal bleeding.
Yeah. So if you have heavy vaginal bleeding, what would your hemoglobin be?
Also low.
Yeah. So this one was kind of like you were the lawyer, it sounds like.
I keep doing that though, and I don't know how to catch myself and not lawyer.
The best thing to do for lawyer, so to not be the lawyer, is one is like you just have to change your expectation. So if you go in expecting, we may have talked about this last time, if you go in expecting that everything is going to be perfect, either consciously or subconsciously, you are going to eliminate the right answer not infrequently. Because the right answer is not the perfect answer.
Mm,
And she's got a really good reason why her hemoglobin would be low in the first place. Does that make sense? Like
yeah.
you were really, really critical of C, of ITP as the
Mhm.
answer, but you were not at all critical of E. So it's more of like a process thing of like you just have to you have to be emotionally okay with choosing an answer that isn't perfect. I mean, like if you've got the time, you should do rule in and rule out, right? Like, because if you do
Yeah.
that, it'll be obvious that it's not the other answer, right? If you're like, well, what would rule in TTP? Well, I mean, she's got low thrombocytes and she's got low hemoglobin, so that would make sense. The rule
Mhm.
out is that like she doesn't have any, like she doesn't have the neurologic, she doesn't have the fever, she doesn't have the kidney stuff. All right, let's look at this. So CHF.
I was debating between these two, but then because she has the arteriolar narrowing, I was like, I know that that's from like just chronic hypertension. I like thought about it some more and I was like, but it's the chronic hypertension, maybe renal artery stenosis is a better answer because you'll have that for longer, possibly.
So
And
there's
I,
like the knowledge part of it, which like I think you're kind of getting mired in. There's the test taking strategy, which is like if two answers could be correct, then like if CHF you know is true,
yeah.
and CHF plus renal artery stenosis you're not sure is true, it can't be renal artery stenosis and CHF because CHF would still be correct. Like there can't be two correct answers.
Oh, I see. So, because renal artery stenosis could eventually lead to chronic
It
congestive
can.
heart failure.
Yeah, it can.
But you're saying because I know for sure that congestive heart failure is occurring currently,
Yes.
and whether or not it was due to the renal artery stenosis or not, the diagnosis plain out is that she has CHF.
Yeah, you
So
know
that
for a
should
fact.
be
If you ever tell yourself, I know for a fact this woman has CHF, just choose that answer. Right? Don't try to
I see.
complicate it and be like, oh, is it CHF plus one of these other diagnoses? Because it can't be. Because if that were true, CHF would be correct and renal artery stenosis would be correct. And that can't be true. Yeah, you tend to fixate on like the one thing. This I think is an emotional thing more than it is like a skill thing.
And to get myself to emotionally detach, I should just do rule in, rule out for all of these.
If you're a medical student or a doctor preparing for either the USMLEs or COMLEX or one of your medical board exams, then be sure to sign up for our free 14-step program where we'll walk you through the most efficient ways for you to improve your score in a short period of time. And if you're interested in getting there faster, be sure to book a free call with our team where we'll break down what it is that's holding you back and, if it makes sense, explain how it is that we can help you to get there more efficiently. Yes, rule in and rule out for sure, but part of it too is like you have to also let go of the like your attachment to the outcome of the test, right? Like the people that tend to do best, like for example, there was a student, she failed step 3 4 years ago. She finished residency. She failed step 3 by 1 point. Um and she's like, ruminated on it for 4 years since then. Uh she did a bunch of EMDR therapy and she got to the point where she was like, no matter what, I know I'm going to be okay. Long story short, she went from like 60% correct to like 80% correct in like a day. She didn't change her knowledge obviously in a day. But like she got an NBME that was like, yeah, it's like 60%, something like that. It was a failing NBME. And
Yeah.
then her next one, she took an IM shelf NBME and she got an 83% unused. So like I mean, I say this not really, I'm not joking. Like legitimately, the people that do best are the ones that can walk into their test knowing that they will be fine, their life will be fine regardless of what the outcome of the test is. Because then emotionally they're not so invested in each of the questions and they're not so worried about like, oh my God, but what about this? Oh, what about this? Like they're not so hyperfixated on it and they can kind of see the forest without focusing so much on each individual tree.
My friend was telling me, she's like, I think you need to just like be like, I don't care and
Yes.
keep going through it.
People that put immense pressure on themselves to do really, really well in this test tend to like overemphasize little tiny things. They tend to lean into being the lawyer, not the judge. They tend to kind of panic, not sleep, fixate, whatever, all of the mistakes. So the best thing to do that you can do is just imagine, let's say the worst case scenario happens and you get this score or lower on your test,
Hmm.
what would you do if that happened?
Apply again.
Great.
Um,
Perfect. Take a research year, make connections.
yeah.
Like, in other words, you're like, yeah, it's not ideal, right? It's
Right.
not an ideal thing. But like if you got a low score, even like let's say you failed, right? Heaven forbid you failed. Would it be your first choice? Absolutely not. But knowing that no matter what, you will be okay is the number one best predictor of how well you're going to be able to be the judge and not the lawyer, and to, really interpret things well on your test. I mean, I would lean into the insights of those closest to you,
Hmm.
because it sounds like you're pretty anxious about the outcome of this test, putting a lot of weight on it, and it's affecting your performance.
That makes sense.
Great. So, yeah. So then just imagine, just tell yourself, yeah, what would I do in that situation? And then I would highly recommend doing a lot of EMDR therapy. It helps a ton, just in general.
Doing what, sir?
It's called EMDR therapy.
Okay. I didn't even realize I was that stressed about it. From the
Um,
questions that we reviewed together, would you say that it's more of the like attachment problem, or you think,
I mean, you're definitely being a lawyer. You're definitely being a lawyer. And based on what you're telling me, like that's a pretty pervasive problem across all of them.
yeah,
Like if you've been trying to do rule in and rule out, and you're conscious of the fact that you're doing it and you can't stop yourself,
yeah,
it's probably not just a skill. It's probably not just a skill thing.
okay.
That's my guess, right?
And in order to boost the skill, just do like,
It's an expectation problem and it's a skill problem. So you need to practice. So like you can use the USMLE GPT. There's a game on USMLE GPT that is the rule in rule out game. So I would play both rule in and rule out games. Again, it's a skill and it's also an expectation. I think the issue is that like you're reacting emotionally to these things. The key is that you need to detach before you get into the task.
I see.
Like it's not an in the moment thing. Like you have to go in calm.
Mhm.
You can't be like, oh my God, oh, we've got anemia and thrombocytopenia. Oh, okay, calm down. I need to be present. And like that's not how you do it, right? It's like you have to go in super calm and know for a fact that you will be fine. Your life will be completely fine,
Yeah.
regardless of the outcome of this task. And that confidence allows you to be calm in the moment to moments. So EMDR helps a lot, as does just like going through that exercise of like imagine the worst case scenario. All right, Chrissy, it's good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, take care.
If you're putting in the hours but your knowledge isn't accumulating, it's not about studying more. It's about building a system where nothing you learn gets forgotten. In this video, I break down the exact framework to make that happen and get you on track for a 260 plus in step 2. Click here to watch it next.